Hello, and welcome to Beyond Books, where we talk about books and beyond. I'm your host. I'm Renee, co-host Raina. Snack of the day is milk bone flavored dog biscuits. These are little tiny mini ones, but I'm still going to break them up. And today I have a full review of a banned book. This is one I just finished at the end of January. This is called Last Night at the Telegraph Club. It's by Malinda Lo, is the author. This book was published in January of 2021. It takes place in the mid-1950s in San Francisco. The genres are historical fiction, romance, LGBTQ+, and young adult. So let's start out by talking a little bit about the author. Malinda Lo has written numerous short stories and books going back all the way to 2012. There's a trilogy that she did called Adaptation, another called Ash, A-S-H, and then 3 standalone novels, including this one. Her novel called A Scatter of Light apparently will tell us a little bit about what happened to the 2 young women who are featured in this book. So now, in November of 2021, the National Book Foundation announced that Last Night at the Telegraph Club had received the National Book Award for Young People's Literature. This was the first time that an adult or a young adult book featuring an LGBT woman is the main character and won the National Book Award. So that was the first time for that. In January 2022, the book received the Stonewall Book Award for Young Adult Literature, the Asian Pacific American Award for Youth Literature, and a Michael L. Prince Honor. So, yeah, very well acclaimed book. Reportedly, Malinda Lo always wanted to be a writer. She was born in China, but her family immigrated to the U.S. when she was very young. She has degrees from Wellesley College and Harvard. She presently lives in Massachusetts with her wife and their dog. Doesn't say the dog's name or breed, Raina. So we don't know that, but yes, with their dog. So now, what is this book about? Let's talk about that. Well, it's about 2 young women who fall in love with each other and start a relationship. This is very taboo at the time for both of them, but especially for the main character. Her name is Lily Yu. She is Asian American and of a Chinese background. Excuse me for a minute, please. Drop the milk bone, can't do that. Let's see. Okay, of a Chinese background. And this is the time of the Red Scare, when many people of Asian, particularly Chinese descent, were under suspicion of being communist spies here in the U.S., and many were deported because of that. Now, Lily's father is a prominent physician and does not want any kind of negative light cast upon him nor his family. At the beginning of the novel, Lily mistakenly goes to a rally where there are communist groups present, and so she's kind of already in trouble with the family. But still, Lily's issue is that she has never felt that she fits in anywhere, and she just doesn't seem to be interested in any of the young men at school who are interested in her. She's somewhat of a loner. She becomes fascinated with a book that she finds at the drugstore, and she goes back to keep reading it because she doesn't want to buy the book. The book depicts a lesbian relationship. And even though such a novel was written in a very unrealistic way at the time, it's still something that she finds some identity with. She also becomes fascinated with a place that she sees advertised, and that's called the Telegraph Club. Now, mainly, she's interested in the fact that there are male impersonators there And she feels kind of drawn to learning more about that as well. Then she meets another young lady named Catherine Miller, who goes by Kath. Kath has been at her school, but she never really, paid that much attention to her until recently. She learns from her classmates that Kath is that way, and so she's admonished to not be seen with her, lest people think that she's that way as well. But Lily won't give up because Kath has been to the Telegraph Club. So this just adds to Lily's fascination and admiration of her. So soon the two are sneaking out of their homes on Saturday nights to go to the club. Now, the stakes are very high if they are caught, not just because of the effect that it would have on their families, but also because somehow at that time, homosexuality, was linked with communism. And again, her dad is already under some suspicion. But also, the gay bars at the time were routinely raided. The police would come and arrest everyone, bring them to jail, and then the bar would end up getting shut down for a period of time. This was a routine thing that happened. And it happened into the 70s, well into the 70s. And now, remember that they are both underage, and they have fake IDs so that they can get into the Telegraph Club. And they would definitely be held if they, were to get caught up in one of these raids. And of course, their parents would be called. So they were definitely taking a big risk. But they're very drawn to each other, and there's really no other place where they can feel even the least bit safe about being together in any way. So it's a risk that they end up taking. So, when, where, and why is this book banned? Well, according to Malinda Lo's website, she says, my book, Last Night at the Telegraph Club, has been banned and challenged 34 times in 14 states: Alaska, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Missouri, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Wisconsin. It's generally banned from school libraries and, in some cases, libraries in general. Now, why is it banned? Well, it's the usual. It's very easy to pick out something that is disagreeable about a book, or something that's in the content of the book that, when it is taken out of context, may seem shocking to some people. And this is how the book banners and challenges will get kind of, let's say, their foot in the door, and then keep up the pressure until, they get a result. Now, is there sexuality in the book? Yes. It's about finding out your own sexual orientation and sexuality. Is there graphic sex in the book? No, not in my opinion. There are other books that are far more graphic, that young people could probably easily get their hands on, not to mention stuff on the internet. If they wanted to learn specifically about sexual acts, not the book to do it. There are racial slurs in the book. A lot of times books get banned and challenged for that reason. In fact, I'll give you what the content warnings are for the book: homophobia, racial slurs, and racism. Now, sometimes that does, again, get brought up when discussing banned books. Yes, it does have those things in it, racial slurs and those kinds of things. Why? Because it's about racism, racial issues. And remember that it takes place in the 50s. And actually, Malinda Lo herself does a good job of addressing this. In the back of the book, there's an area that is called, what did she call it? Oh, an author's note, but it goes on for several pages. It's more than just a note. It gives a little bit of history, LGBTQ history. It gives a little bit about, the 50s and kind of specifically what was going on there. A little bit specifically about Chinatown and Chinese Americans. That is more similar to what people were called at the time. And so some of the racial slurs, yeah, they were of the type that were used in the 50s. Now, I'm going to read a little bit from an article on a website that is called lesbrary.com. This is by someone named Liv, L-I-V. And sorry to just read it to you, but she did such a great job in summing up the issue, and I'll leave a link to this article below. One element of YA that is important to watch out for is how it serves two primary sets of readers. The first set is the group of readers whose identities most closely align with the characters and/or subject matter. For example, in the case of Late Night, adolescents who are Asian American immigrants and/or part of the LGBTQ plus community are in this first set of readers, and potentially those from other marginalized communities as well. When we talk about who the books are for, this is the set of readers that usually people are referring to. If I can recognize myself in some facet of Lily's character, Last Night speaks to me and my experiences. I might, for example, be reminded of the thrill of realizing something important about myself when Lily begins to interact with Kath. Or I might recognize the danger that I feel, through Lily's constant need to keep large parts of her life a secret. In other words, the reader's experience is reflected back to them in the pages of the novel. I think we've probably all felt that. Now, I like this part. This is something that I hadn't really ever talked about before with some of these LGBTQ and other books too. The second group of readers is, simply put, everyone else. And this is where we run into trouble. Why should my child, who is nothing like the characters in these books, be subjected to these books? And she says that's the question that I've heard posed so often, either in those exact words or otherwise. Their children, they argue, shouldn't have to be confronted with what it means to call an Asian American person a term that is meant to describe objects rather than people. Their children shouldn't be exposed to a point of view that challenges the way the typical white person behaves. And typical is in quotes, because it's not true that's necessarily typical. As they are when Lily is asked if she can speak English, or is reportedly called a China doll. Their children, most especially, shouldn't see immoral behavior go unpunished. So that's an argument that's sometimes made. Except, she says, these sorts of issues are precisely what adolescents should be reading about, because for many, novels like Last Night provide a window into an experience that isn't their own. The parents who seek to ban books only want their children reading books that mirror a certain set of experiences, while marginalized adolescents have to look through windows into lives that don't mirror their own. In truth, all adolescents should read both sorts of books. All adolescents need the books they read to function as windows and mirrors so that they can learn about themselves and about others. So, what do I think? Well, I think you can tell by how I enthusiastically read that. I entirely agree with it. I saw myself in these pages, and I feel that the author did an amazing job of capturing the excitement of coming of age, discovering yourself, discovering your sexuality, discovering your sexual orientation, and then also portraying the isolation that comes with it and the secretiveness that surrounds something that's such a big part of your life. When you have to keep the most important relationship of your adult life a secret, I mean, it's devastating. So the author is very effective at portraying this mixed bag of feelings, and I loved the story. I loved the historical aspect. The characters felt very real to me. I enjoyed the setting of San Francisco. This was totally a 5-star read for me. And I will read A Scatter of Light first chance I get, because I have to find out what happened. It's not a sequel, by the way, but it does refer back to then what happened to these people. So that is my book review of Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. Last year, when I reviewed Flaming and Genderqueer, I did present a lot of data on suicide among LGBTQ plus youth, and that wasn't even a year ago. So instead of redoing something like that, I'm going to go ahead and just link that video in the description below, because mainly a lot of that suicide is attributed to feelings of isolation. And, that comes up in this book. So it's a good one to maybe look at both of those videos for. So if you like my content, please like and subscribe. Please leave me a comment or a thumbs up if you're so inclined. Have a nice day, and I thank you very much for watching. Take care.